and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. I just think that is, I just think that's interesting. Maybe the Bible is more literal than we ever see. I cannot imagine a scenario in my mind where the moon would actually physically turn into blood. But maybe God means something by this, and He wants to give His people, the people who actually believe the Bible, He wants to give them wisdom. And so, and by the way, eggs are mentioned in the Bible, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So we have this correspondence between the goddess Ishtar, Ashtaroth, Esther, Easter, whatever her name is, and of course the moon. And if you get into pagan witchcraft jewelry, you'll see that witches love the moon. That's their symbol. It's a symbol for fertility, probably because it has everything to do with the waxing and the waning of the woman's cycle and her ability to produce and so on. Probably has everything to do with that, and that's how Isis was worshipped. In fact, let me kind of connect the dots here for you. Okay, I told you earlier that this is how Easter is actually figured out, because Easter's not on the same day every year. It's on a different date. It's always on a Sunday, but it's never the same exact Sunday. It's never like March 12th or whatever it is. Okay, here's how it's figured out. The date of Easter is actually determined by the moon. Okay, now and think of Easter as being a pagan holiday, because it is. Okay, it's after Ashtaroth, it's after fertility, and all these things that we talked about. So Easter is actually determined by the moon. It's the first Sunday after the first full moon. Now remember, the full moon represents ovulation. Okay, when the ovule or the egg is ready. Okay, that's what the full moon represents. So it's the first Sunday after the full moon. So you see a full moon, the first Sunday after that, it can't be just the first full moon of the year. It has to be the first full moon after the vernal equinox. What is the vernal equinox? It is the day that's the spring equinox, usually around March 20th, March 21st, when there's exactly 12 hours in the day and 12 hours in the night. That's equality. Mainly, Albert Pike talks a lot about that. We'll discuss that. Anytime you have a symbol in pagan ideas or the occult of equality, you have the joining together or the balancing of things that are opposite. Light and darkness, sun and moon, male and female, they're balanced so that they can be together. That's what that represents. That's what the equinox. So they take the equinox, which has a pagan concept behind it, or the pagans pulled a concept from this. After all, God is the one who designed the spring and the summer and the autumn and the winter. He's the one that designed all of that. Don't ever forget that. Don't be afraid of certain days on the calendar. Oh, that's pagan. That day's pagan. Don't be afraid of that. God is the one who made the days. God is the one who put the stars in their course in Genesis chapter 1 so that they could be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. The lunar orbit, the course of the stars, the sun, and the sun rising east to west, the sun also rising north to south. We'll see that in a little bit. God is the one who designed that. It's the devil that said, I'm going to latch onto that and make some big pagan thing out of it. And that's what he did. So they take the equinox, 12 hours and 12 hours. It represents equality, fusion together, sons of God, daughters of men. And the first full moon that comes after that, which means she's ready. And then we take the first Sunday after that and say, this is when we're going to celebrate the fact that the egg has produced something. We'll find out what it is the egg has produced. Okay, you remember, in fact, here it is. You remember, we dealt with this here a while back. This brings in the Easter celebration, brings to the end the whole Lenten celebration, which of course is the 40 days weeping for Tammuz, which we saw in Ezekiel chapter 8. It was the abomination that God saw in the north part of the temple where the women were weeping for Tammuz. You know who Tammuz was? It's the god that died, and he awaits a resurrection. Okay, that's what it means. So 40 days, but remember, Lent is longer than 40 days. It's actually 46 days. That's the same number of words that the devil spoke to Eve in the Garden of Eden. It's the same number of chromosomes that you and I have, where our DNA, I want you to think of DNA looking like two snakes, because we're going to see that in a little bit, all right? So anyway, but that's what Lent denotes, 46 days before Easter, and that's what Easter represents. It represents there's something buried in the egg. I wonder what it is, because when we went around collecting Easter eggs, we weren't just going, here, Mom, I got some eggs. You can fry those up, next Sunday or whatever. We knew that these things were hard-boiled. There was something in there that we wanted, and we would peel them and eat them. Or if we had the, pantyhose legs, there was always something in there. I wonder if I got the special prize. That's what Easter egg hunting is all about. It's about finding a secret, something that's hidden, and there's a secret stored in here. That's what this whole thing is all about. So we bring in this symbol now of the serpent and the egg. Here is one graphic here showing actually two serpents with an egg in their mouth. The two serpents are fused together and joined by the egg. Again, this is what Manly Hall has in the front of Morals and Dogma, is the two-headed eagle joined together in the same body. This symbol shows you that by the fusion of these opposites, there's a secret to be found right here in the middle somehow, some way. Look at the serpents. They kind of look like little strands of DNA hidden in the 46 things. There's a special secret here, the 46 words that the devil spoke. The 46 words that they spoke in the Tower of Babel when they wanted to build that tower. Think about that. The Masonic symbol of the two Johns. You have John the Baptist and John the Divine. And I want you to note and think about this in mythology, not necessarily in the Bible, but in mythology. John the Baptist is this hairy, gruff guy that eats locusts and wild honey. Okay? John, in Christian mythology, not in the Bible, but in Christian mythology, John is this sort of effeminate, soft-spoken guy who has pale skin. That's why when Da Vinci drew the person sitting next to Jesus, and everybody said, well, that's John, it wasn't. It was a woman. It was Mary Magdalene. So when you look at the image again of the two Johns, you have one John and the other John. One's kind of very masculine and one's kind of a little feminine. And notice that they're standing on these two lines here with I want you to look at this, the circle with a point in the middle of it. What's in here? Okay? This is like a circle, and it's got a little dot in the middle of it. Think about it. Okay? But they're showing that if you read Albert Pike, you read Manly Hall, read some of these other books I have up here, they'll tell you that that these two Johns and these two lines represent the equators. Why? The Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Why? And we talked about this. Because every year, and I love this, I absolutely love this. God showed me this. And remember, God designed this. Okay? God is the one who said the sun is going to rise in the east and set in the west. He also said it's going to rise from the south and then go back down again. Wait a minute. Every year, I'll put this graphic on the screen, and I'm going to use this little illustration. You can't see it very well. But every year, the sun starts down here and is over on the winter solstice. Okay, winter solstice, December 21st. The sun is directly overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay? From the winter solstice to the spring equinox, now the sun is directly over the equator. Okay, directly overhead. Shows balance, 12 hours in a day. Then, during the summer solstice, the sun rises again up to the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, that's the summer solstice. Then back down to the fall equinox, it's over the equator, and then back down to the winter solstice, it's over the Tropic of Capricorn again. Okay? The difference in latitude between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, 46 degrees. It's the same number of days of Lent. It's the same number of words. It's the number of chromosomes where our DNA is. There's a secret inside the egg. Okay? And it looks to me like our DNA is the egg. Okay? That's what it looks like to me. And so anyway, now, getting to this word Easter in the Bible. I was confronted with this years ago. Oh man, I cracked my egg. I was confronted with this years ago because we're going to go to Acts chapter 12. There are people out there, can you believe this? There are people out there that don't like the King James Bible. And they will look for anything in the world to make it look like the King James Bible was either a terribly flawed translation, or there's some people out there that are into all the conspiracy theories. Oh, they've read this, and they've read this, and they've read this, kind of like me. But they heard somebody say that the pagans, the evil Rosicrucians like Francis Bacon and others, they're the ones that secretly planted hidden words inside the King James Bible. And they say in Acts chapter 12, that word Easter, everybody knows it couldn't be Easter. Okay? They're saying that it's a faulty translation because of this word here. In Acts chapter, let's read it. Acts chapter 12, verse 1. Now about that time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. Now I want you to stop right here. Herod hates the church. Remember what spirit hates God's people? It's Mystery Babylon the Great. Herod stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church, and he killed James the brother of John with the sword. And because it saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. Now stop right here. Stop right here. Then were the days of unleavened bread. So he's killed James. Okay. Now he's captured Peter. He's going to kill him. Now, and the Bible tells you, it pinpoints that they are in the days of the unleavened bread. You know what that means? That means that there was a 7-day feast after Passover called the days of unleavened bread. It was a feast that they had, and they were somewhere in those days. Passover had already occurred, and now they were into the feast of unleavened bread. Go search this out in the Scriptures. It's right there. The answer is right there. Okay? Then were the days of unleavened bread. Now verse 4. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Now, everybody knows that Easter is a pagan holiday. Okay? And here's what they say. They say the Greek word here, where it says Easter, in the original Greek it says Pascha. And they note that every other place in the entire New Testament where it says Pascha, it's translated as